Right now on Upfront.
Assassinated.
Nothing I say can unite us as a country.
Political activist Charlie Kirk shot and killed on a college campus in Utah.
This is a dark moment for America.
A strong influence in Wisconsin's conservative politics.
He is helping reshape what it means to be a young conservative.
This Sunday, The Response. Former Governor Scott Walker, president of Young America's Foundation, on the changes already underway.
All of us bear responsibility for this.
Then the impact on the race for governor.
Now, we don't have to agree, but we must reject hate.
Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley officially entering the race. The Democratic endorsements he's already touting, and he's here with us. Plus, on the campaign trail with Republican Josh Schoemann.
I've been to 72 counties in 127 days. That's about a county and a half a day.
The first to enter the race. Our new interview now, just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. The investigation still unfolding this weekend. The president and FBI announcing Friday a suspect arrested in connection to the Charlie Kirk shooting. Kirk shot and killed during an event on a college campus in Utah. The conservative political activist, the founder of Turning Point USA, incredibly influential and popular among young conservative voters.
Kirk became a force in Wisconsin politics, campaigning this past spring alongside Donald Trump Jr. for Brad Schimel in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Schimel to us this week, calling it a dark day in our history. Kirk also held an event on UW-Madison's campus ahead of the November election, much like the event that was held in Utah.
Let's bring in former Republican Governor Scott Walker, now president of Young America's Foundation. Governor, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
You knew Charlie Kirk, governor, for years. You worked incredibly close with him as you've now headed Young America's Foundation. Just start off, what did he mean to you?
Well, personally, this is just so heart-wrenching. I just seen Charlie and his family a couple of weeks ago at Wrigley Field. He, of course, was a Cubs fan. I'm a Brewers fan, but we were there for the big matchup. And I even got a chance to talk to his parents, tell them how proud they should be of the work he'd done. I first was introduced to him when he introduced me at CPAC years ago, and he knew, having grown up in the Chicago area, all about what went on in Wisconsin with our politics. He'd helped with the recall. There was just a real bond there, and over the years, he had invited me, even when I was governor, to speak at his conferences. So this is personally, certainly I and my family, my kids knew him, worked with him, did some things with him. Personally, it's very devastating for us, but obviously as a nation, it's devastating as well.
We can't ignore you as the president of Young America's Foundation. I mean, you book high-profile guests, you have controversial speakers, you're on college campuses all the time. What changes is the organization planning to make in response to this?
Well, we constantly look at this. So you're right. We have big names. We were supposed to have on 9/11 Ben Shapiro out in Santa Barbara. We immediately canceled that out of respect as a Charlie initially because we thought we'd be praying for his recovery. Tragically, it's become a day of mourning. So that was done out of respect. We will re-examine all that we do to ensure the safety of our students first and foremost, our speakers, other staff, and others. So we will make some adjustments, no doubt. But let me be clear, there have been some people suggesting that our group and others like us should stop doing speeches on campus, and we will not do that. We're not going to back down. That would mean this assassin would win. I think the best way to honor Charlie's memory is to continue to do the work he was doing to reach out to young people. And ironically, what he was doing on campus was having the kind of debate you want to have. He was listening to the people in opposition. He was having a principled dialogue. He was actually having a kind of debate we should warrant on every campus.
I'm assuming you're looking at increased security for potential events, as you just referenced.
Yeah, we'll do, we'd already been talking with Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and others at the Daily Wire about enhanced security. We typically do not do events outdoors. We do them in auditoriums. We may even eventually have to have metal detectors or other things like that. One of the things I hope is out of all this is not only that people don't back down, but I hope that colleges and universities who have been really difficult for Turning Point, for Young America's Foundation, for College Republicans and other groups, I hope that now this doesn't become a barrier to allowing conservative speakers on campus. I hope they open and welcome speakers from across the ideological spectrum, but I also hope that they'll provide adequate security. We've had problems in the past. Many times they've added costs far exceeding what they provided for groups on the left. Right now in America, I hope that colleges and universities say, We have to have dialogue. We have to have respectful debate. And we need to ensure the safety of not just speakers, but every student who deserves to be able to engage in this dialogue.
Broadly, we're seeing this rise in political violence. I mean, you can look at whatever incident you would like, the state lawmakers in Minnesota, the assassination attempts on President Trump, now this past week. Scroll on social media for 2 seconds, you see there's finger pointing on all sides of this. Is there any going back to where we are today?
Oh, there has to be. I mean, there has to be. I mean, this is one of those where not only elected officials, people that lead organizations, business leaders, religious leaders, education leaders, all of us bear responsibility for this. And we've got to step up and say, we got to do better. We can have a dialogue. We can have a debate. We can't go the opposite extreme. We can't use this as an excuse to shut down voices. That's not what America's about as we go ahead to the celebration of the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence. But we've got to find a way to do it more respectfully. I hope, particularly for those of us from the Midwest, we can lead the way. I think we've done that in the past. We've had debates, we've had discussions, but we've done so in a way that has certainly been respectful. And I hope we can get back to that because we deserve that in America, all of us, no matter where we stand on the issues.
Is there any risk when you see like Congressman Van Orden, for example, talking about civil war, saying this is the reason he will be at war for the next 20 years? President Trump saying, it's the radical left that is directly responsible for this terrorism. Is this the right approach at this moment?
Well, I think right now it's a combination. First and foremost, and I found this to be true when I was governor, before I dealt with recovery after disaster, I wanted to mourn with any of those who've lost lives. So first and foremost, we have to mourn. And I give credit, someone like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, I don't agree with him on much, but I was pleased to see that he spoke out strongly and deliberately yesterday, help others, again, not only in elected office, but do that. As I did, for example, when an attempt was made against Congressman Giffords years ago in Arizona. We should denounce this no matter who it's against, no matter whether we agree with them or not. And then, I think it's a balance. We need to look at the way we have dialogue, but we also cannot back down. This cannot be an intimidation factor, not just against people like me who are conservatives, but against any of us who want to have a debate, who have strong opinions. We can't let terrorists like this, we can't let assassins like this win, no matter who they are. And the best way to do that is to embrace policies that ensure that all of us are safe, and yet all of us have a place to have a seat at the table when it comes to a debate.
Former Governor Scott Walker, now president of Young America's Foundation. Governor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up, the impact on the race for governor, plus the new candidates now entering the field. Our new interviews, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley in studio, and on the campaign trail with Josh Schoeman. Welcome back. The race for governor growing. Congressman Tom Tiffany says he'll decide by the end of the month whether to join the Republican field alongside businessman Bill Berrien and Washington County Executive Josh Schoeman, who we caught up with on the campaign trail Thursday in Cottage Grove.
So you're Josh, huh?
How'd you know?
All summer, Washington County Executive Josh Schoeman has showed up in front yards like this.
We ask for your Holy Spirit to be upon the family.
This night in Cottage Grove, the shooting and killing of Charlie Kirk still top of mind.
As governor, you would be overseeing what probably is the most equally divided state in the country, or pretty close to it. I mean, how do you do that when people now are literally shooting at each other for disagreements over political views?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but I think we've spent too much time in America and too much time in Wisconsin talking past each other, throwing social media bombs back and forth, not sitting down and talking to one another. I mean, even in this last state budget, the sitting Democrat governor doesn't invite the sitting assembly minority leader in his party to the table to talk about budgets. Like, how did we get here? There has to be a conversation. I think there's more to this day that unifies us than that divides us. We let the little things divide us to the point where people are shooting each other. You got to talk to people where they're at. I mean, here we are in Dane County. Well, who expects a conservative to go to Dane County and try to just talk to people about where they're at? What's your station in life? What is it that you need? But that's the kind of campaign we're going to run.
Schoeman, the first candidate to enter the governor's race back in May, needing to secure name ID and money from across the state.
Let's talk about the primary leading to the general. Republicans statewide have had some challenges if your name isn't Donald Trump or Ron Johnson winning statewide on the ballot recently. What makes you the guy to potentially do that?
Well, in the last 10, 12 years, right?
Yeah.
That has been the case. But again, if you look at Wisconsin state history, young, energetic, folks who are willing to work their tail off. You know, I've been to 72 counties in 127 days. That's about a county and a half a day. I mean, we are moving. You know, I think that's the kind of candidacy that people want. In my lifetime, we've only ever elected 2 Republican governors, Scott and Tommy. They fit that bill. We've tried millionaires. We've tried congressmen. No congressman has won the race for governor in Wisconsin since 1930. The millionaire thing hasn't worked for us lately. Let's go with what works. And the template that I bring as county executive with real executive experience, the conservative record in Washington County, and somebody who's going to work tirelessly. I tell people all the time, when candidates come and make a pitch to you, tell them, Shulman made it around the state in 72 counties, 127 days. You keep up with that?
What does Tom Tiffany do to this race if he enters to this primary?
Listen, Tom's a great congressman. He's been a wonderful legislator for 20 years, good man. It'll definitely change the dynamic, but it's not going to change our strategy. I mean, we got to meet people where they're at and talk to them, and meet as many people as I can and raise as much money as I can. That doesn't change.
How's the money going? Are you raising the money needed?
It's good, but it's slow. I mean, people are waiting to see what's going to happen. But now that we're past Labor Day, we're stacking up some events, some fundraisers, and I'm excited.
Are you going to need a Trump endorsement to win the primary?
I think any Republican will. So I'm excited to earn the president's endorsement. You know, he got his start off in Manhattan developments by having an older guy at that time give him a shot. And that's exactly the type of thing I'm going to ask him for, is just give me that same chance you had, and we're going to take back Wisconsin. You'll have a partner in the governor's mansion.
Have you talked with him yet, or anyone on his team?
We've been in the West Wing. I have not talked to him personally, but you know, they're very, very focused on the House. I think Tom was pretty clear about that. I think he was pretty clear with Tom about that, it sounds like. And they were clear with us about that.
Would you promise anything or guarantee anything to the president in return for his endorsement?
I've never even thought of it, so I'd say no.
David Crowley just entered the race, the Milwaukee County Executive on the Democratic side. That's expected to be a large field as well. There's been a lot of talk about National Guard troops in recent days. Democrats have said absolutely not. You are open to the idea of rather it be requesting or welcoming troops to Milwaukee?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the mayor and the county executive have done a horrendous job on crime in Milwaukee. Nobody denies it. It's embarrassing that, I mean, they're our neighbors in Washington County. And I've been vocally frustrated with how they've operated. When I'm governor, we're going to give them all the resources they need for law enforcement, just like as I've done as Washington County executive. I've got law enforcement's back 1,000%. I will when I'm governor. And if it requires me to, I will call the president myself personally and ask for National Guard troops if the mayor and the county executive don't cooperate.
In theory, at least as it looks now, if you were governor, it could be a divided legislature, perhaps Democrats, the Senate, Republicans, the Assembly. Let's just take that example. How would you govern and how would you work with Democrats?
Well, when I'm governor, we're going to win both the Senate and the Assembly back. But in the event that we wouldn't when I win in January of 27, I'll tell you this, that budget process to me was a mile marker in poor leadership by Governor Evers.
How about Republicans?
Well, the fact that the governor didn't even have all of the legislative leaders, minority and majority, sitting at the table is embarrassing. I mean, it doesn't matter what party you are, you should have a seat at the table. We should be having conversations with one another. I think it's what's wrong with the state, with our country. When Greta Neubauer is minority leader in the Assembly, when I'm governor, she's going to have a seat at the table. We might disagree on 98% of things, but we're going to talk to each other.
Were Republicans wrong to make that deal with the governor?
Look, I'm not a legislator, I'm an executive. I set the budget and then the legislature acts. I will say this, the budget that they approved is less bad than the one the governor proposed.
All right, up next, the newest Democrat to enter the race, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley is standing by.
Welcome back. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, now the second prominent Democrat to enter the race for governor.
Because we are talking about the next governor of the state of Wisconsin.
Crowley quickly securing the endorsement of Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson. In it, the mayor solidifying his decision not to run for governor himself.
So I've been in the trenches with him. I've seen how he listens. I've seen how he builds trust. And most importantly, I've seen exactly how he delivers. And not just for Milwaukee, but for the entire state of Wisconsin. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm proud to endorse him, proud to stand with him, and proud to continue fighting alongside him in this journey.
And with that, let's bring in Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley. David, it's good to see you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're going to get to the campaign and the endorsements here in just a second, but I want to start with the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. You addressed it during a campaign event during the week. What do you make of seeing some Republicans, even the president, suggest that Democrats are to blame?
Well, it's unfortunate that we're literally pointing the finger at partisanship. We shouldn't be focusing on, what political beliefs people have on who to blame when it comes down to this. We need to stop the violent political rhetoric on both sides of the aisle and really focus on how do we help working families all across this country.
I just asked Josh Schoemann this, but as governor, you would oversee what is likely the most evenly divided state in the country, or one of them. How do you govern it, and how do you do that now when people are literally shooting at each other when they don't agree with another person's political beliefs?
Well, it's really about, building relationships, building a level of trust. One of my favorite quotes is, no one cares what you know until they know how much you care. And, there's not a lot that really divides us. All of us are struggling. We're trying to figure out how we, put food on the table, how we pay our bills. And it's really about showing up, having honest, open conversations, being as transparent as possible, to actually learn that you actually have a lot of things in common. And so I think right now with the political discourse that we have been seeing play out in this country is further dividing our country. But one of the reasons why, I got into political office and running for governor is to make sure that we can bring everybody to the table.
I want to ask about your campaign for governor. Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson endorsed you just hours after you officially launched your campaign last week. How does that endorsement help you win?
It's exciting. Mayor Cavalier Johnson is a great leader here in the city of Milwaukee, a great friend of mine, went to high school together. But having him lets folks know that, we're willing to come to the table. People here in Milwaukee, we're working well with one another to tackle the issues, and that we're not running away from it. And so I'm running to be the governor of all of us. So having his endorsement is extremely important. But I plan on going all across this state, talking to rural, urban, and suburban voters everywhere to make sure that they can lend their voice to the issues.
This Democratic field is likely going to expand ahead of the primary. You have the lieutenant governor in, Ryan Sternad, the attorney general, perhaps the former lieutenant governor Mandela Barnes, State Senator Kelda Royce, Francisca Hong, the state representative, just to name a few, who may be all getting into this. Is this going to turn into a race of who is the most liberal on the left?
I think this is really about giving voters an option. I think the primary elections is good for our democracy. And so having as many candidates as possible gives voters the opportunity to see the different candidates and different perspectives. But no matter who the Democratic nominee, or even on the Republican side, that lets that candidate, that Democratic or Republican nominee become that much more better. So I welcome this field and looking forward to talking to as many voters as possible.
How do you sell yourself in the primary? Are you the most progressive? Are you the most liberal? Is that something you would like to embrace?
Well, I'm the only candidate in this race that has both experience serving in the legislature as well as actually running a government. I spent 7 years in the state capitol, so I know exactly how Madison worked. And for the past 5 years, I've been leading the largest county in the entire state. I represent a sixth of our entire population. It's about 1 million people, but also managing one of the largest budgets with a $1.4 billion budget. And so, the issues that I've tackled, these aren't just Milwaukee issues. These are state of Wisconsin issues.
You and I this past week talked about the county's finances, which some of your critics point to rather quickly, a projected $47 million deficit roughly. You told me this past week, I think we need to revisit how we actually tax. A lot of people took that as you saying we need to raise taxes.
No, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the way that we tax in the state of Wisconsin, and quite frankly, is antiquated. We put everything, all of our revenues, pretty much on the backs of all of our property tax owners. And so there are ways that we can look at different ways in raising revenues for many of our local communities so they can invest in things that matter to them.
Do you have a plan on how you change that? Change that tax structure? You say there are other ways to look at how you do it.
Well, I think that there's an opportunity to create a blue ribbon commission for, to get folks from all across this state to come to the table for us to tackle our tax code just entirely. Whether we're looking at their property taxes, how shared revenue formula works, how we're funding our public schools. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution that's going to be able to solve the issues in the state of Wisconsin.
You've spoken out against any talk of sending National Guard troops to Milwaukee. We heard from Josh Schoemann say that you and the mayor have done a horrendous job on crime. We've heard from Bill Berrien say he supports the National Guard coming into Milwaukee. Why wouldn't you request any extra assistance?
Well, one, we don't need the National Guard coming into the city of Milwaukee or any community across this entire country. We have, men and women who wear the law enforcement uniform every single day who are doing a great job. And so if we want to make sure that we're uplifting communities, it's not about how we send more law enforcement. It's about how do you create partnerships.
Inching in on the first full week of the campaign, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Up next, disaster approved. Before we go, President Donald Trump approving a federal disaster for southeast Wisconsin after historic flooding last month. The president unlocking nearly $30 million in federal funds to help homeowners and renters in Milwaukee, Waukesha, and Washington counties. Residents will have to apply for assistance through FEMA.
That is our show today. All of our interviews are posted on the WISN 12 YouTube page. Just find and subscribe to the Upfront playlist.
Thanks so much for your time today. We'll see you right back here next Sunday for Upfront.